Okay, so what I thought I thought we would just like talk about some questions and we'll edit something together. And Kelso, talk about what you're doing. Like you wrote another script and just
so I wrote a short story with Brian Evenson, who's like he's a big deal if you like kind of genre fiction, and it's set in Scotland, and the short story's been published, but we're kind of in the process of turning it into a script just now as well, and it's kind of similar, kind of size film as Strange, but maybe a bit smaller actually, because it really just follows one character again, with brief interactions with other characters. But it would be really cool to make it into like a sort of existential Scottish horror film. I thought it'd be quite cool.
Right.
And then the first thing, even when I was writing the story, the first thing I was thinking about was, well, what would the Pumajaw soundtrack sound like? It's the only music I listen to when I write as well is Pumajaw. So
really, that's brilliant.
Well,
such a compliment.
Well, I'd love to be involved, Chris. If it comes about, let me know.
Absolutely. And Laura's going to direct it. So.
I'm going to direct it.
Oh,
I'm going to direct it there. I'm like, well, I'm coming there to do it. Because it's
There's lots of horrific places in Scotland.
Yeah.
It's a very west of Scotland story, so I think it'd be cool to like have it in Ayrshire somewhere. So like where I'm in Kilmarnock or something, very kind of like brutalist architecture and sort of depressed battleship grey buildings and all that kind of stuff. So something horrific about that.
Keep it bleak.
Absolutely.
There's that place. What's it called? That old monastery. That brutalist. What's it called?
Oh, the asylum.
No, it's an old monastery. It's Saint. Well, you must know the place.
Is this in Ayrshire?
I think it's near. I can't remember. I think it's near Glasgow.
Right.
But I'm not sure.
I can't remember. It's west of Glasgow somewhere, and it's like this enormous. I've never been there, but it's quite famous. Enormous brutalist. It was like a college for priests or something.
That already sounds terrifying. What kind of?
Do you not know the one I mean, Chris?
I know.
Anyway, it's the most amazing building. It'd be an amazing building for a film.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll remember the name and I'll.
Okay. I'll just investigate them all and I'll find out what it is.
Well, and it's interesting, like, so thinking about Chris, how you listen to Pumajaw as you write, and what happened with Strange Bird and how much that sound informed the look and feel of that movie. It absolutely was part of everything. Like, it was part of what we were hearing in our heads as we were shooting it, which was really, it feels the way it feels because of your soundtrack in many ways. I know that, it really inspired the sound of it. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, how do you, after you saw the film, how did you create those sounds that made it unique or specific to that?
Well, the sounds itself, I'm just quite like those sort of sounds. So I've got a library of static and noises and things but I like to make things musical if I can.
Yeah.
Take those sort of sounds and give them some sort of musicality. But I mean, it works both ways, it's very inspiring to work from pictures rather than your imagination all the time.
Yeah.
So, seeing what you did really gave me a ton of ideas as well. So it was like a two-way thing, And I think we both had equally disturbed lives that we came up with this.
I don't know if y'all have seen Boned. When we were shooting the dark bloody love bath scene, we'd set up the shot, and the DP and I are in the cinematographer and I are in the in the audience, and he turns to me and he goes, "Whatever happened to you in the past, I'm sorry."
Exactly.
Like, what? Isn't this funny?
She seems like such a nice woman.
Do you never find that though, like the nicest or the most disturbing art is usually produced by the nicest people?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I have a theory about it. I have a theory that it's when you can confront your own the stuff about you that is disturbing, when you can confront it and look at it and play with it in a way and try and like go to the depths of what it is and make peace with it, it makes you a more accepting and in many ways a kind person.
Definitely, I agree.
Yeah, I think as well, like if everybody has dark thoughts and stuff, and if you're kind of putting them down on the page, you're kind of purging yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Kind of like an exorcism or something.
Yeah.
yeah,
And and in a way, the darkness, I think, you know, I don't think like dark is bad and light is good. In fact, sometimes it's quite the opposite. Like there's this brightness and comfort to the darkness that sometimes the light has this harshness and cruelty to it. And it's this, you know, they're both in both. Like the yin yang sign, you know, there's like a little
yeah.
different color. They're mixed in. Yeah. And that sound, that kind of like what makes a creepy sound versus a, you know, a minor sound versus a major sound, you know, like what but that really
Definitely,
is,
yeah.
The way does one cross over into the other as well?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's great. I love it. I like. Yeah, I don't know. I like the dark. I've always liked the darkness. I've always liked the funny side, the minor chord, and also the humor that can come from it.
Yes.
It's great. You know, black humor is just the best thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The humor of like what is in there. That is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Actually, I was thinking just kind of adding into what Laura asked there. I was curious about, like, I know Song Noir was this kind of project that saw you reinterpreting music from cinema, but I was wondering how important are films to you in your kind of creative process? Like, are you more influenced by things like tone? Because I think about a song like The Burning of Auchindoun that's got a kind of real folk horror vibe about it, but I'm not sure if that was deliberate.
I think it's massive. I think I'm massively inspired by film without possibly or necessarily realizing it. But
to be honest, part of the reason that we did Song Noir, I think, was because we were trying to find it for years. We'd be kind of trying to find a way of describing our sound, and we kept coming back to this word cinematic. And when we were doing things like The Burning of Auchindoun, it was kind of like people would say, "Oh, you're a folk band," and we'd like, No, we're not a folk band. It's folk music, but we're not a folk band in the way that 90% of folk bands are. And this had been going on for a few years when we were trying to just say it's cinematic, but then it's so much of it was vocals that you couldn't really say that because most films don't have vocals throughout. So in the end, it was kind of like, well, let's actually do something that's based around films, existing films that inspire us, and make that a kind of just a hook to hold on to, really. And we were both really sort of like Night of the Hunter was one of our famous.
Oh, I love it.
I love it.
It's a great
One
film.
of the best movies.
So that was one of the first ones that we thought of for that, because it's got that beautiful lullaby song in it that we covered.
Yeah. And she's in the rocking chair and he's singing along with her. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So could you listen to Song Noir as a kind of companion piece? Could you listen to that along with Night of the Hunter, or is it kind of much more than just that one?
I don't think you could. No, I think it sort of jumped. It kind of jumps around because there are songs in there which are quite light. Like we were saying before, you reflect darkness, but with a bit of humour. Whereas I didn't really get that from Night of the Hunter. There wasn't too much humour going on.
No.
but I must say it was one of the most. I remember I came back from the pub one night and it was just on the telly, and I just couldn't believe that film. It's just amazing, and it's been massively influential.
I know, it's a phenomenal film. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Definitely.
also, I was thinking, Laura, as well, if in the future you were thinking about making the film that we were talking about, the one with Brian Evenson, in black and white as well, or do you think that's become a bit of a kind of cliche for like kind of arty modern horrors? Do you think to be black and white? I just really I think it would complement a Pumajaw soundtrack as well.
Yeah.
Just thinking it loud.
Yeah. Black and white is such a. I mean, I love black and white movies. Like, I really take to them, and part of that is the sort of nostalgia factor, but then also what it does by limiting the palette, it creates this new sort of depth of understanding in it. Like, I'm trying to think of some examples, but most of the examples that are modern black and white are more dramas than noirs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see November?
I didn't see November.
Oh, it's
No.
like I think, is it a Finnish horror film, kind of horror drama, or Estonian? So it's an Estonian horror film, and it's been kind of raking up all the awards, and it's kind of folk horror, really slow burning, 3.5 hours long, but really benefits for being in black and white. And also another black and white film that I saw that was really good was the film version of The Painted Bird, the Jerzy Kosinski novel. And it was really effective as well. Yeah, black and white. But I totally get what you mean about limiting. Like, you don't want to limit your palette in any way, do you? I suppose. But
no, I like it. I like that limiting of it. That, in a way, I wrote a movie years ago called The Little Death, and we filmed it in black and white. And that was because it was kind of a Hitchcockian tribute, so it had to be black and white. It just that's how it worked very effectively that way. So I think that black and white is awesome. It's an awesome way to go. And some of the things that, like, looking at how the colors in black and white, like, you have to use different colors to make it pop in a different way.
Right. Yeah.
That's very cool.
I hadn't thought about that.
There's some like thing online you can look at that has like the Addams Family house, and it's all pink. It's all like shades of pink.
Oh,
they have, because that photographs really well in black and white.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Like different shades of a color. Has that been done before? Like blue or something? Like, and it's all shades of blue instead of black and white. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that there's sort of like, you can get like blue tone. Yeah, there's like sort of blue tone movies. There was some movie called Blue World.
Mad Max, the gold version. Mad Max.
Yeah. It's really interesting to play with, like that kind of, like, you know, when you do the color correction and what that does to the color scheme. That's another. It's very different now that it's digital too and not film, but so it probably is not as intense in terms of what you need to.
Yeah, I wonder what it'd be like if you filmed a film like you described, but kept it in color.
Right, all shades of
really mad.
The Addams Family in pink.
Yeah.
And like I really like the idea of this in terms of this new project you're talking about, Kelso, and in terms of what Strange Bird was, which was interesting because it started from your idea, Kelso, but it was very like in there. It was more place specific to where you are, right? Yeah, definitely. But I think it works much better because I think originally it was a man as well. And I think one of the best things you did was to make it a female character and make her much more like an empathetic character, a kind of vulnerable character. But yeah, no, and I actually preferred it as well being kind of transposed into an American setting. Although that film could be set anywhere, I would say. Yeah, but it has a different feel. Like, I think it would have a different type of feel regardless. I mean, depending on where you were. So for example, when we filmed it in our apartment and at this place I used to walk in Los Angeles. So it's very particular to these places in Los Angeles. And then thinking about that kind of place specific existential dread and what you and Evenson just wrote, and then about Pumajaw's latest album, which is very place specific. And I wanted to ask you about this album and like being there at the place, like what was your process there when you were visit? Like what did you do? How did you?
Well, it came about by accident. Pinkie was kind of you were doing other stuff for a while, weren't you? So she kind of took a break from singing. So I went out and did loads of field recording, and went to this place called Orkney, which Chris will know, and it's the very north of Scotland. It's an archipelago of islands, and it's just a beautiful place. And basically, just took loads of field recording there, and then brought them back and played around with them, and not with any intention, and just made some pieces of music. And then Pinkie found out about it, and said she'd like to sing on them. And
What's this?
Rifling through my files, and found and so it sort of came from there. And then Pinkie did some singing, and then that inspired me to do something else, and it kind of back and forth like that. And Pinkie wrote a couple of songs, and so it all came about kind of by accident. It was quite nice because it took ages, but it didn't really take ages. We didn't
put any pressure on ourselves to put anything out to write it.
Yeah. And I think it sort of benefited because of that. That it wasn't sort of rushed out, and so it just sort of came out like a sort of like a thing. And
because also after Song Noir, we were both really tired because that was like a touring show that with film and stuff, and it was really, really hard work. And we took it to Germany and to London, and it was such hard work that I just thought, I just really need a break from this.
Yeah.
But so I was doing others. I was doing stained glass, and still doing that. But John just carried on writing, and he just enjoys finding natural sounds and making them into music. I guess that's what you do, really, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I really like that way of writing because it gives me so much freedom to just kind of let my voice take off. Most of them didn't have a song structure. They'd just be a few loops kind of loosely strung together, and I just use that as the basis for a song, and then they just kind of evolve from there. But Orkney is such an extraordinary place because it's got enormous, it's very flat, and there are 70 islands. And you can see, if you're on one island, you can see all the other islands off the distance. But what you can also see is, because it was a really strategic place in the Second World War, is there are all these old ruins, World War II ruins everywhere, which are really strange. They've just been sitting there empty since the 50s. So it's got this extraordinary atmosphere. And that was just it stayed in our minds a long time after we've been there.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that about it's definitely the best Orcadian concept album I've ever heard. It's brilliant. But it does feel quite kind of apocalyptic sometimes. Well, I know it's not like a big bombastic album, but there is that kind of, the first time I was listening to it, it felt quite kind of like overwhelming, just the kind of waves of the samples, and it is much more kind of free. You can tell when you're singing as well, Pinkie, that you're sort of performing or expressing something in a very kind of pure way, and it's like a Leviathan or something.
Well, I felt like that when I was writing the lyrics. I just kind of let it be almost like a sort of stream of consciousness kind of thing in some of the songs, and it just came out. I guess for me it was a combination of the sort of world events, and also contrasting with that feeling of space and loneliness, Orkney, and it just all kind of wove together somehow. But yes, definitely apocalyptic.
Well, and I love the like starlings, like the starlings and murmurites, like the kind of like that kind, bringing those birds in, and the same sort of like crow sounds that are in Strange Bird, and these ideas of like the other species that kind of that intermix with us, that are you really feel that sense of, you know, it's not like humans isolated alone, it's humans in concert with everything else.
Absolutely. Well, that Murmurite is very much a lockdown song, because there was that thing when suddenly lockdown happened. It was beautiful weather here, and all these people were just so happy that they didn't have to go to work, and all they were allowed to do was go out for a walk. And suddenly it seemed like people were kind of like, hey, nature, this is cool.
Yeah, it was true. And the other thing I liked about it was it took us back in history, because we were listening to the sound that you would have been listening to in the 1920s, or maybe even before cars. You know, there's no cars, there's no planes, there's just nature and voices, really. So that kind of intrigued me too. It's like felt pretty historic. It's like it wasn't nostalgic, but it was just interesting. I've made a lot of recordings in those times as well, which I can now augment with God knows what. But I'll add to it to create another sort of imaginary sort of history from those sounds, I think. So yeah, I like Lockdown was interesting.
It was interesting. I think one of the best things you did was the Great John Cage project. I know this is your kind of side project.
Yeah.
But this album felt very similar, because we live in fast times where everything's, you know, everybody feels totally overwhelmed with everything. But your field recordings and actually listening to silence, and Orkney must be a great place to go and just sort of like cleanse the palate in a way.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the only place really. I think it's the only place I've recorded where it's easy to get away from traffic. Because you'd be amazed how hard, even when you think you're in the middle of nowhere, you can still hear a car. When you hear the recordings back, it's still a car. So yeah, it was great. But the John Cage project was really inspiring as well, because people, to start off with, it was just people sort of sending in recordings to their back gardens, but it got more and more imaginary, and it's something I might like to return to, actually.
Well, my dad submitted a recording to you. I don't know if you remember, and you played it on an episode, and he was delighted. That's his first publication. His first.
Well, it was great, and it was a really nice piece, wasn't it? Really good. Yeah.
He's a fairly artless man, but
really,
pretty much. But but he really loved the podcast. I think it's quite therapeutic as well for him.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm glad that you got that together. It's really good. Yeah.
I love that there's such a place, just such a place where there's no traffic and no planes, and the idea of like walking out into the world, like coming out of Plato's cave, you know, like blinking and being like, whoa, there's a world here that isn't our shadow puppets, our digital avatars interacting. I mean, that's a stunning image.
Yeah, it was. I think the whole thing came around so fast. It was so unexpected, and obviously no one was prepared for it. It was just like, I found it really surreal to start with.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it's just but I found it actually very creative, and quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoy those sort of situations. We had a period years ago where everybody went on strike, so there's like no power. We only had power 3 days a week, and the rest of the week we're in darkness. And I was at school. I mean, and it meant you didn't have to go to school, and it meant you could come back and have your dinner in candlelight. And I just loved it. It was brilliant. We could still listen to the radio, so I really listened to tons of radio, and it was just. I think that probably.
It's all right for the person that doesn't have to do the washing up.
Yeah.
Wow. So those were like, well, I was working painting in the basement yesterday, listening to this album. And there's a part of it where in the song Smell of Trouble, where there's some sound that there's some word that you say, Pinkie, that sounds like my name. So I was down there in the basement by myself, it's dark, and all of a sudden I hear Laura. And I'm like, what? Oh, who's here? I was like, wait, maybe that's a song. I don't know. But,
sorry about that.
No, I love it because there's something about like there's a haunting. It's a haunted song, and it takes all available space and it goes into it, and it's personal. There's something about that song that really just.
Which one is it?
The Smell of Trouble.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's something about that song that really, as you said, John, it really gets under your skin and stays there for a long time.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So I think that in terms of like place specific music and your sound and what you all are doing, it informs my consciousness, where I guess also Chris is like you really are creating a soundscape for this huge aspect of my life. So I'm very grateful.
Well, that's fantastic. That's a lovely thing to say.
Yeah. I'm also very grateful.
It's really it's extraordinary, and it feels not only like you're making music for, it feels like you're making music specifically for me, which in a way I guess you are.
Oh, yeah, we are. Yeah. We had a lot of arguments about that.
Yeah, really, it's very it's very moving and extraordinary. Okay, that's all I mean, those are my driving questions.
I've got one quick. Could I jump in with one quick question?
Yes.
Sorry. So just to make sure that, do you know how you had a hiatus, I suppose, where Pinkie, you were doing your stained glass stuff, and John, you were doing the field recordings and the podcast, and then you sort of almost accidentally come back together for this album. But are you going to continue to produce albums under Pumajaw? I feel like I try to get my parents to stay together or something. But are you going to keep producing albums?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we never said we wouldn't. It's just we didn't want to be under pressure.
I said it.
I never say never. But yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, we will. We will, because now
we're even going to do a gig.
We're going to do a gig.
Oh.
We got our first gig booked. So
where?
Yeah, it was just
Kirkcaldy.
Oh really? Oh wow.
The glamorous.
It's the Enorma Dome, Kirkcaldy.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so we're probably going to slowly. We might do a Glasgow one as well.
I never stop anyway, so it's just a matter of dragging Pinkie back into my
It doesn't take much.
distorted world.
No, it will. Yeah, we're definitely going to carry on.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, it's just
But and thank you for the encouragement.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No, it's a relief. Thank you.
Well, and you'll do the music for the next project that
Oh, throw for the hat, definitely. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds brilliant.
Okay.
Is it still sort of miles in the future, or do you know?
It's up to Laura. We're just, if she can get over here, then we'll do it. But
I can get over there. I'm already there. I'm like right behind you. Wouldn't that be creepy if like you turn around and hi?
Oh God, walk through the door. I mean, do you think this summer's that's far too optimistic and ambitious? But maybe next year, or what do you think?
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it when we'll see what. I like ambitious. We can figure it out. We can figure it out.
It's nice. Yeah, it's great. Well, yeah, but just let us know. And there's always a spare room if you need one.
Yay! Great.
You sorted, Laura. And I'm here as well. I mean, like if you wanted to come to Moncton, you're welcome. There's no excuse.
That sounds awesome. Okay. I'm there. I'm in both of
You're
them.
there. Yeah.
At once.
Yeah, make it happen.
Definitely. It's been lovely talking to you guys.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to stop our recording. Thank you so much. This is such an amazing album, and Chris and I we're super fans.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're super fans, and both ways. Goes both ways.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to this film, Chris. It sounds very intriguing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As fast as the wind